You're losing the game. And you haven't even realized you're on the board. Your life is a chess game. But not one of those played elegantly on marble tables, between glasses of wine and calculated looks. Or yours is played in silence, in the dark. With pieces you don't know how to move and decisions that seem to come from fear rather than strategy. And the worst part? You don't know who you are in this game. The pawn? The queen? The spectator? Number, you're the king. And you're so distracted trying to seem strong, intelligent, or charismatic that you've forgotten the most important thing. Your purpose is to survive. Your role is to exist with intention. Your mission is to protect what is essential. But you keep moving as if victory lies in moving forward aimlessly, without direction, without you. Listen carefully. The king doesn't need to move much to be powerful. He just needs to know who he is. But you don't know. You wake up every day thinking you need to prove something. To someone. To everyone. You go through life trying to control the board, when you can't even control your thoughts. I repeat, you are the king. Not because of your strength, not because of your speed. You are the king because, without you, everything ends. And yet, you have placed your value in the hands of pieces that are here today and gone tomorrow. Do you really think success is about having everything under control? Being on all fronts? Having all the answers? That's not strategy, that's noise. True strategy begins in silence. Knowing when not to move. Recognizing that not everything that shines on the board is essential. You've lived too long believing that showing strength makes you invincible. But tell me, how strong can you be if you don't know how to protect your peace of mind? How high can you go if you don't even know what you really want? The problem is not the lack of success. The problem is the lack of direction. Because if you don't know what you're protecting, anything can distract you. Do you know what a good player does? He doesn't start by looking at the opponent. He starts by knowing his king, knowing his limits, knowing his position, knowing what's at stake. Because if you don't know who you are, you won't even know when you're losing. And here comes the question you should have asked yourself years ago. What are you defending? Don't tell me my job, my image, my reputation. That's air. That's smoke. What really matters is what is unseen. Your mental health, your emotional balance, your value system, your purpose. That's your strength. That's what cannot fall. Because when that breaks, everything else is useless. But you ignore it, you hide it, you cover it up with empty goals and external validation. As if success were an applause and not an internal certainty. As if being admired made you at peace. The truth is different. The world can applaud you while you're falling apart inside. What good is a powerful queen if your king is on the brink of collapse? You've played this game as if you were untouchable, as if it didn't hurt, as if you were a rook moving in straight lines without hesitation. But you're not. You're the king. And the king moves slowly. The king observes. The king protects himself. The king doesn't win by attacking. He wins by resisting. He wins by knowing when to move forward and when to stay still, because the king who runs without thinking dies. Do you get it now? Every time you betray yourself to fit in, it's like moving your king to an invisible check. Every time you prioritize what others think over what you feel, you're leaving your soul unprotected. Every time you choose to pretend instead of feel, you're losing an essential piece. And still, you wonder why you can't find peace. It's simple. Because you haven't built an inner castle. Because you've built walls on the outside, but inside everything is in ruins. You've obsessed over external strategy and forgotten the most obvious thing. The real game is played within. You don't need to know how to move others. You need to understand what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not. And here comes self-knowledge. Because only someone who knows themselves can create a strategy that won't destroy them in the process. Only someone who knows themselves can protect the essential without confusing it with the secondary. Because those who don't know their worth end up giving everything for nothing. And do you know what's the worst part? That many times you do it with a smile. How long will you keep giving up your principles to belong? How long will you disguise your anxiety as ambition? How long will you keep calling success that constant noise that doesn't let you sleep? This isn't about winning. It's about holding on to what holds you. It's about caring for the core, even when everything around you is crumbling. Because if you lose the king, the game is over. There's a brutal truth no one tells you. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one you have in front of you. It's the one you've let inside. Your unfiltered thoughts, your misunderstood emotions, your unhealed wounds, that internal noise that sabotages you every time you're about to move forward. That inner saboteur doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you you're not ready. You're going to fail. Better stay where you are. And you listen because it sounds familiar. Because you've been repeating it for so long, you think it's you. But it's not you. You're the one who hears it. And if you're the one who hears it, you can change the message. Real leadership doesn't start when you lead others. It starts when you lead your mind, when you silence the voices of fear, when you choose to act with clarity even in the middle of chaos. Because chaos doesn't go away. It never goes away. What changes is your ability to navigate it. And that is built from within. The world applauds those who win, but admires those who survive without losing themselves. Because success without peace is just a shout with an echo, an empty applause, a crown that weighs more than it's worth. The real question is, do you want to win, or do you want to resist without betraying yourself? Because only one of those will give you freedom. And no, this isn't about being invulnerable. It's about knowing your weaknesses and protecting them wisely. It's about recognizing that you're not immune to pain, but you can be strong in the midst of it. It's about building a shield not made of pride or arrogance, but of unshakable principles, of purpose, of clarity. Because when you know what you're defending, you don't sell yourself at the first attack. And here's the irony. The more you know yourself, the less you need to prove. The clearer your center is, the less external chaos affects you. The more you take care of your king, the less you care about the battle. True power isn't seen. It's felt. It's that calm that those who don't need to shout have. It's that silence that discomforts those who live from noise. It's that firm look that says, I know who I am, and I'm not going to move on a whim. So tell me, when was the last time you sat with yourself and asked, what is it that I really want to protect? Because until you answer that with complete honesty, you'll keep moving by reflex, not by strategy. And those who move by reflex lose. The real game isn't won by who advances the most, but by who knows what they won't give up. And do you already know what you'll never give up? Because if you don't, any offer will seem tempting, any voice will seem wise, any defeat will seem final. And they're not. Failure doesn't define you. What defines you is what you choose to protect, even when everything else seems to be at stake. Protect your mental health, your emotional stability, your integrity, your purpose. That's not selfishness, that's strategy, that's leadership, that's maturity. The king who survives isn't the fastest, nor the most visible. He's the most conscious, the one who doesn't sacrifice the essential for the urgent, the one who doesn't trade their peace for applause, the one who doesn't chase recognition because they know their value doesn't depend on being seen. And here's the last painful truth. If you don't protect your king, no one will do it for you. You are the center, and if you fall, it doesn't matter how many pieces remain on the board. the game simply ends. So start today. Not with big moves, not with radical decisions. Start with one simple step. Recognize yourself. Look at yourself. Ask yourself, with brutal honesty, what am I neglecting that I should be protecting with everything? Because when you know, you won't play by inertia, you'll play with intention. And at that moment, even if you take just one step, you'll have won more than many who move aimlessly. Real victory isn't about winning the game. It's about not losing yourself. And do you know what the most common mistake of those who lose this game without even realizing it is? They think protecting what's essential means closing themselves off. That taking care of their inner kingdom is about building walls. That self-knowledge is an act of defense, when in reality, it's an act of power. I'll tell you something that few understand. Self-knowledge doesn't make you fragile, it makes you dangerous. Because when you know what you're not willing to lose, when you have clarity about who you are and what you'll never allow, you become unpredictable to a world that thrives on manipulating those who have no roots. Look around you. Look closely. Most people act from fear, from lack, from that constant feeling that they're missing something. And what does that do? It makes them easy to control. If you touch their ego, they collapse. If you deny them approval, they kneel. If you offer them validation, they sell out. But there's one kind of person who doesn't play by those rules. The one who's done the inner work, the one who's visited their shadows and made peace with them. You can't dominate that person. You can't convince them with applause, nor threaten them with rejection. Because they've lived it all inside. Because they don't need to belong, they already belong to themselves. And this is the new topic I want to talk to you about. The brutal difference between the one who seeks power and the one who seeks clarity. The first is a slave to their hunger. The second is free in their purpose. Do you realize? Everyone wants power. Economic power. Power of influence. Power over others. But real power isn't external. It's not accumulative. It's internal. And the most messed up part, it's not obvious. True power doesn't make noise, doesn't demand attention. It's the power to look at your life head on and say, this is who I am. This is my worth. This is what I won't negotiate. It's the power of not needing to shout how strong you are, because your consistency proves it without words. Now, what feeds that inner power? Clarity. Clarity that can't be bought or inherited. It's built, it's cultivated, it's bled for, because having clarity isn't about knowing what you want when everything's going well. It's about holding on to it when everything falls apart. It's about facing the storm and saying, this doesn't change me. It's about seeing everyone run and you choosing not to move. Not because you're slow, but because you already know where you are and where you're going. And that, my friend, terrifies those who are still lost. Clarity is a weapon, one that discomforts. Because in a world where everyone doubts everything, the one who walks with conviction shines like a threat. Because it reminds others that yes, it's possible to have direction, yes, it's possible to have a purpose, yes, it's possible to live with meaning, if you're willing to stop living for others. But no one tells you this. Because if you knew, you would stop being manipulable. You'd stop buying what you don't need, working on what you hate, tolerating what kills you inside. That's why this society rewards the obedient and punishes the lucid. Because the obedient are pieces. The lucid are kings. And this is where we return to the board. The king who lacks clarity is a pawn in disguise. He thinks he commands, but he moves by reflex. He panics when he loses a rook. He sinks when a queen falls, because his center isn't within himself, but in what surrounds him. But the king who has clarity can be alone on the board, surrounded by silence and enemies, and still play with intention. And watch out for this. Clarity isn't arrogance. It's not thinking you know everything. It's having enough humility to accept what you don't know, and the intelligence to not act from there. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to move forward and when to wait, when to give it all, and when to step back to preserve what you can't afford to lose. Self-knowledge isn't just about knowing yourself. It's also about knowing your limits, your blind spots, your obsessions, your wounds. Because if you don't see them, others will use them against you. If you don't know where it hurts, anyone can press right there. But if you know, if you recognize it, if you work on it, then they no longer control you. Then you no longer react, you choose. And that's the new level of the game, the one for those who choose. Because there are two types of people in life: those who react and those who decide. Those who live at the mercy of the board, and those who choose their next move. And only the latter lead, not others, themselves. Here's a burning truth. If you don't decide your life, others will decide it for you. And not with bad intentions necessarily, simply because there's empty space. And empty space always gets filled. If you don't fill your life with purpose, the world will fill it with noise, with consumption, with comparisons, with expectations, and you, without realizing it, will be living a borrowed life, a life that sounds good, but isn't yours. And what's the point of winning a game with rules you didn't write? That's not victory. That's decorated slavery. It's success with a taste of defeat. And the worst part, you don't even realize it until it's too late. Until you wake up one day, look at your reflection, and don't know who you are or why you do what you do. And that moment, that instant, is the true checkmate. Because there's no move that can save you if you've lost touch with what's essential. And that's where balance comes in. Another forgotten pillar of internal leadership. Because it's not enough to know yourself. You have to take care of yourself. And I'm not talking about spas or days off. I'm talking about protecting your center, nurturing your mind, feeding your values, silencing what doesn't add up, filtering what enters your head. Because the mind, my friend, is fertile land. And whatever you plant there will grow. What are you planting? Clarity or noise? Because if you spend the day consuming what distracts you, listening to what scares you, comparing yourself to fake lives, what do you expect to grow inside you? Peace won't. Purpose, even less. And that's when everything starts to rot. First in the invisible, then in the evident. Until one day, the board looks good from the outside, but you know you've already lost the game inside. And that's the saddest part, because the outside can be rebuilt. But when the king falls inside, everything else is decoration. That's why I repeat, take care of your center, your mind, your balance, your purpose, not because you're weak, but because you're essential. And if you lose yourself, everything else loses meaning. And if you still doubt all this, ask yourself this last question. How many decisions in your life have come from fear? And how many from clarity? The answer will tell you if you're playing or just moving. And if you've made it this far, if you've listened to every word without looking away, it means something. It means that in some corner of your mind, there's a voice telling you, this is for me. It's no coincidence. It's your consciousness pushing you to wake up. Because you're at a precise point, at that key moment where either you keep living a borrowed life, or you finally decide to take control of the board. But wait, don't go yet. Because the most powerful part comes now. Have you ever felt like you're moving forward, but without direction? As if each achievement feels less satisfying, as if each victory is just a patch that doesn't cover the emptiness. It's not that you're wrong, it's that you're disconnected. Because when you don't know what you're defending, everything starts to feel irrelevant. And that kills you slowly. The soul doesn't die with a blow. It dies from where? From living every day without purpose, from ignoring the essential to follow the urgent. And do you know what's the most ironic? That you probably already have everything you need inside you to change it. You already know it. You've already felt it. But you're afraid to make it real. You're afraid that by acting, there will be no going back. And it's true, there's no going back. Because once you start living with clarity, you can't settle for less. And that scares you. But it's also freedom. True freedom. Damn beautiful freedom. The kind that only those who dare to look within and say, "This is who I am, and I'll never betray it," have. So here's the last question, the one you can't ignore. Are you going to keep moving without thinking? Or are you going to start playing for real? Look, this isn't about motivating you. It's not about playing epic music and telling you that you can do everything. It's about facing yourself and having the courage to hold on. It's about building yourself from within, brick by brick, principle by principle. It's about learning to say no to what sounds good but takes you away from your truth. It's about walking with intention even though everyone else runs aimlessly. And if you understand this, if you really understand it, the board stops intimidating you. Because you no longer play to please. You no longer move pieces out of fear. You no longer sacrifice your king for a pawn of validation. You play to protect what matters. You play with consciousness. And that makes you invincible inside. Untouchable. Unstoppable. So don't tell me you can't. Don't tell me it's too late. What you really need is not time. It's decision. Do one thing today. Protect your center. Even if it's with a small decision. Even if no one notices. Even if it seems insignificant. Because in reality, you're doing the most important thing. Holding your inner kingdom. And before you leave, I want to propose something. Go to the comments and write this phrase. My king doesn't give up. It's your way of saying, I've understood the message and I'm ready to play for real. Subscribe if any part of this video hit you like a silent shot. If any phrase made you close your eyes for a second and think, this is what I needed to hear. Because here, we're not here to entertain you. We're here to wake you up. And believe me, this doesn't end here. From now on, every move you make will be different. Because you no longer move just to move. You move with intention. And that separates you from the crowd. So do it. Subscribe. Leave that phrase in the comments. And get ready. Because what's coming is not a game. What's coming is life. Played by someone who has finally remembered who the true king is. See you in the next video. Or maybe, we'll see each other in the silence between one move and another.